Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we are sailing straight into a topic that I think plagues almost every single boat owner, no matter what size vessel they have.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's this. Why does sound quality so often fail on boats? I mean, even the really expensive ones.
It's a huge challenge.
The environment is just so unique, so hostile. You're dealing with wind noise that's practically hurricane force trying to just rip the music away.
Right. And engine vibration.
Constant engine vibration trying to shake everything apart. You've got reflective fiberglass everywhere distorting the sound. And then, worst of all, just this relentless assault of salt, moisture, and UV light.
It's truly the most demanding environment for electronics outside of, maybe military applications. Yeah. Your average car stereo or home theater system would literally fail within weeks.
Just completely fall apart.
So our mission today is to move past just assuming good sound is possible and instead really focus on achieving what our sources call sound that defines the yachting experience. We're going to be unpacking sources that look specifically at these premium purpose-built solutions, namely JL Audio Marine speakers, and the absolutely critical role that authorized dealers and specialized installation expertise play.
And we're centering this around Fort Lauderdale, which is sort of the global hub for this kind of work, right?
The gold standard, exactly.
So this is crucial because we're not just talking about buying a good product off the shelf. This deep dive is really about understanding the specific engineering, the material science that's required for these systems to not just perform, but to survive.
To survive and perform brilliantly.
For what, 5, maybe 10 years in that harsh saltwater world? It's endurance and fidelity all in one.
That's it, exactly. The idea here is to move you past the question of, will my speakers sound good right now, to the much more important investment question. Will my system still sound clean and work reliably 5 seasons from now?
5,000 engine hours later.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's unpack this. What really makes marine audio so fundamentally different from, say, car or home audio? And I mean beyond the obvious, risk of getting splashed.
Right, which is honestly the least of its worries.
Yeah.
It really comes down to this continuous systemic assault on every single component. The core environmental threats that high-end gear like JL Audio was built for, they're just relentless.
Like what specifically?
Well, think about UV exposure. The intensity on the water can break down the plastics and speaker cones, making them brittle. And salt spray doesn't just sit on the surface. It gets into every microscopic crack and just accelerates corrosion. Then you add low-frequency hull vibration when you're underway, extreme temperature swings.
From a blistering hot day to a cool, damp night.
Exactly. So if a product is just, adapted from a car design, it just doesn't have the foundational engineering to survive.
So the whole approach has to be different, right, from the materials up. Can you give us an example of how that engineering actually, shows up in the product?
Certainly. It starts with the materials themselves. We're talking about custom formulated polymers, injection molded UV-resistant cones. Yeah. These aren't just coatings sprayed on. They're part of the manufacturing.
It's in the DNA of the speaker.
It has to be. The polymer on the grills, for example, has to withstand something like 5,000 continuous hours of tropical sun. And the systems themselves have to be fully sealed with drainage to protect the electronics inside from water getting in. They meet these rigorous IP ratings, which are way beyond anything you'd need in a car door.
That survival engineering is fascinating, but let's pivot to how it sounds, because that's what you're ultimately buying. What's the sonic difference you'll actually notice first?
Clarity. That is the immediate differentiator, and it comes from engineering for what's called open-air performance.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, a normal speaker relies on a wall or a small enclosed space like a car to reinforce the bass and direct the sound. On a boat, a flybridge, a cockpit, you have no reflective boundaries. The sound just dissipates into the air.
It just gets lost.
So a purpose-built marine speaker has to be engineered for projection. It needs to push that sound through the air and overcome the noise of the engine and the wind without sounding, thin or harsh.
That makes perfect sense. You need enough focus to make the music feel present, even when you're moving fast.
Precisely. And a well-engineered system has to stay perfectly balanced at low volume for just casual listening.
So you're not shouting over it.
Right. But then when you crank it up to cut through the noise at 25 knots, it has to stay controlled. No harsh highs, no muddy mid-range. And that's really tough when you have listening areas spread all over the boat.
So maintaining that balance across all these different noise levels is the real test. Our sources actually laid out 4 key benefits that define this approach.
They did. First is that comprehensive salt and UV protection, which comes from those sealed enclosures and marine-grade materials. Second is that critical open-air performance, so they're engineered for projection.
Got it.
Third, balanced frequency response, which means clear highs, rich mids, deep bass at all volumes. And finally, and this is increasingly important, stylish design with different finishes and even integrated LED lighting that's also sealed against water.
That focus on projection really highlights why just using a car speaker would never work. It would sound tinny and just get lost.
Completely lost.
But as our sources really stress, having the best gear is only half the battle.
And this is where it gets fascinating.
Yeah.
Because even with the most expensive top-of-the-line equipment, the installation is the single biggest bottleneck.
The weakest link.
It is. A premium speaker is only as good as its installation. We have to stress this. Yacht audio is not plug and play. It's not a DIY project.
And this is where that specialized expertise becomes so important. Our sources point to specialists like Concord Marine Electronics, operating out of the Safe Harbor Lauderdale Marine Center. They've been doing this for large yachts since 1988.
Right. And their whole approach is treating it as a complete engineered system, not just a box of parts.
What's the difference there?
That distinction is vital for protecting what can be a really big investment. A true specialist looks at the whole picture. They analyze the vessel layout, sure, but they also assess the ship's actual electrical capacity and power delivery.
Ah, so they're looking at the boat's power grid.
Absolutely. And most critically, they ensure complete system matching. The speakers, the subs, the amps, they're all engineered to work together perfectly. This stops components from being stressed, which is what leads to early failure.
So what about those failure points? The sources mentioned installation discipline provided by NMEA-certified installers.
Yes, and this is where it gets really interesting, where they talked about things like corrosion-resistant wiring, sealed connections, proper bonding.
And system tuning, which we'll get to. But they dropped a pretty shocking statistic about amplifier lifespan.
They did. Improper installations can reduce an amplifier's lifespan by up to 30%.
30% is massive. What is the single biggest culprit behind that? Is it just bad wiring?
It's often a mix of things, but if I had to name one, it's thermal failure, heat. It's driven by bad power delivery or poor ventilation.
Okay.
So an amp might be stuffed in a tiny unventilated closet, running on wires that are too small, which forces it to work harder and get hotter. If the installer also failed to match the amp's output to the speaker's power rating, the RMS rating, the amp is constantly pushed to its limit.
It's always overheating.
Exactly. And that heat just destroys the internal electronics. That's how you lose 30% of its life compared to a system that's powered correctly and can breathe.
So this brings us back to that specialized discipline. What are NMEA-certified installers doing that prevents all this?
They're focused on marine-grade standards that you don't see but that are critical. NMEA, the National Marine Electronics Association, is the standard. It means they're using the right size cables to prevent voltage drop, using sealed heat shrink connections to keep moisture out, and ensuring proper grounding to prevent corrosion.
So they're not just running wires, they're building a reliable power infrastructure for the electronics.
That's the perfect way to put it. And, crucially, they manage the final system tuning.
The sea trial.
Absolutely. The top specialists don't call it done until they sea trialed it. They adjust everything for different cruising speeds to guarantee it sounds balanced in all conditions.
Our sources had that case study of the 110-foot yacht.
Yes, 16JL Audio M6 speakers, dual amps, 2 subs. They achieved what the owner called cinema-grade clarity across all the decks. That takes serious engineering and precision.
That's high-end execution. So let's give the listener the tools to navigate this themselves. How do you choose the right product line for your boat? What are the 3 tiers?
The lineup is tiered very cleverly for different needs. At the foundational level, you have the M3 series.
Okay.
These are super efficient, affordable, ideal for smaller boats where, space and power are bigger concerns.
The entry point. What's the step up from there?
Stepping up is the M6 series. This is the premium core of their lineup. Here, you get much more power handling, so they can take more power without distorting, and this is where you get those really stunning, customizable LED lighting options.
The ones people love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They balance performance and aesthetics. And then at the very top is the M7 series. This is their high output design. These are really for the largest yachts or those huge exposed open air zones where you need maximum projection and volume without any compromise.
Bigger motors, more power.
Basically, yes.
And you can't have music without the low end. How do the subwoofers fit in?
Subwoofers are essential to replace the bass that gets lost in that open air environment. The lineup mirrors the speaker tiers: M3 subs for tight bass and small spaces, M6 for a deeper, higher performance response. But the real game changer for yachts are the infinite baffle models.
Okay, hold on. You have to define that for us. What does infinite baffle actually mean?
Great question.
Yeah.
So normally, a subwoofer needs a precisely sized wooden box, right? That's the enclosure. An infinite baffle design changes the rules. It allows the subwoofer to use the vessel's structure itself, like the hull or a big empty space inside, as its enclosure.
So the boat becomes the speaker box.
Essentially, yes. It turns a part of the vessel into the massive air volume you need for truly deep bass. For designers, this is huge. It saves space and weight because you don't need a bulky custom box, but you still get that incredible low-frequency response.
That sounds like something you definitely need a specialist to identify and install correctly.
100%.
So let's walk through the actual selection process a specialist would use. It's built around zone design, series selection, and power matching.
It's a very logical 5-step process. First, you define the sound zones: the cockpit, the flybridge, the salon. You figure out what you want from each space.
Step 1.
Second, you choose the speaker series: M3, M6, or M7, based on what that zone needs. The flybridge might need M7 projection, while the salon is perfect for M6 fidelity. Third, you add subwoofers, either enclosed or those infinite baffle models.
Makes sense.
Fourth, and this is critical, you select the amplifiers. You have to match the amp's wattage to the speaker's RMS rating. That's its continuous power handling. M-series amps for efficiency, or the heavy-duty HX series for complex multi-zone systems.
And that prevents the amp failures we talked about earlier?
It's the key. And finally, step 5, you integrate controls using marine-grade head units like a Fusion or JL Audio Media Master.
Okay, so if you've done all that, you've bought the premium gear, had it certified and installed, what's the final pro tip that takes a system from very good to truly premium?
The secret weapon, and it's often overlooked by non-specialists, is digital signal processing, DSP calibration.
DSP, define that for us in this context.
The true measure of a premium system is clarity and balance, not just how loud it goes. And that clarity comes from DSP tuning. It's basically a computer chip in the amp that lets the installer custom tune the frequency response for the unique acoustics of your boat.
Ah, so they can tailor it to the space.
Precisely. They use special microphones to measure the acoustics of, say, the flybridge, and then they can digitally tweak the output. They can cancel out harsh frequencies from fiberglass reflections or boost mids that get lost in the wind.
So without that final tuning,
you end up with distortion or irritating hotspots, where it's too loud in one seat but you can't hear it in another. The tuning is the difference between having great components and having a true performance system.
That's the difference between just hearing music and actually experiencing it.
Exactly.
So what does all this mean beyond just music? We're seeing this trend toward unified control on luxury boats.
This is the future. Absolutely.
Wow.
It's no longer a standalone stereo in a cabinet. Owners want to integrate audio, video, lighting, everything from a single screen.
So the JL audio system has to play nice with the boat's main control system.
It has to. It means seamless compatibility with systems like Fusion, Raymarine, or even high-end platforms like Crestron.
Give me a real-world example of how that works.
So the owner can select preset scenes. They could tap quiet cruising mode, and it automatically lowers the volume in the salon and master cabin, but keeps some ambient music on the aft deck.
Oh, that's cool.
Or they hit full deck party mode, and it instantly syncs all the audio and video, maybe even the big TV screens, across the entire boat, with the volume perfectly balanced for high output in 5 or 6 different zones at once. It's about total command with one tap.
And that takes us right back to the value of the specialist. They're not just selling a speaker, they're providing reliability and execution that matches the sophistication of the whole vessel. The goal, as the source said, is effortless clarity, not just loudness.
That phrase really sums it up. For yacht owners, the sources make the 3 priorities crystal clear. First, authentic purpose-built products. Second, correct system engineering from a specialist. And third, NMEA-certified installation quality that will last for years offshore.
So if you take away 3 nuggets from this deep dive, let them be these. First, understand the difference between a product and a system. JL Audio is purpose-built, not just adapted. Second, professional installation by certified technicians protects that component lifespan. It's your defense against that 30% reduction in amp longevity.
And finally, a thought to mull over. Considering the sound environment on a yacht changes constantly, from idle to 30 knots, and the system has to be tuned with DSP to stay perfectly balanced, if that level of specialized engineering is needed just for sound.
Right.
What other hidden areas of your vessel, from your antennas to your power management, might benefit from that same rigorous, specialized engineering that goes beyond what you can initially see?
That is a fascinating question to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.